Hello, everybody, and welcome to Yeah, We Read It. My name's Laura. I'm one of your hosts,
And my name is Meggie, and I'm the other host.
and you have caught us in the final installment of the Inheritance Games. This time we are reading The Final Gambit to figure out once and for all what the hell's going down at the Hawthorne House.
Yeah, because you think it would be an open and shut case that she would have the money, but tricks keep getting thrown at her.
Tricks keep tricking,
They
and
really do.
that's what's happening. This book, unlike the other two, which are consecutive in the timeline, book two takes place directly after book one. This one takes place months after the first two books. And Avery's 18th birthday is fast approaching. It's also approaching her 1 year at Hawthorne House. So we jumped forward in time, which
So that
honestly I think the
means
series needed. We needed to kind of skip ahead a little bit.
she's gonna get the money if
She's
she's
gonna
there
get the
for a
money.
year. So we're
Yep.
like right on the brink of that with the
Yeah.
start of this book.
And we also learn that Jameson and Grayson are both not at the Hawthorne house right now. Jameson is off in Italy and other countries looking for clues that could help continue them on their little path to figure out what the hell went down. Grayson is at college. And we also learned that Nash and Libby are like dating with quotes around it. They won't admit it, but they clearly are.
Yeah, because what's better than being in the gray area for a year
Yeah, that's really
and
awesome.
living in the same house? Like,
Yeah, like, just call a spade a spade. Stop trying to be, like, quirky about it.
you're not still in the talking period if you've been together for a
Yeah.
year and you're living in the same
Yeah,
house.
you're not fooling anybody, like, I don't care, like, stop.
Put a ring on it at that point,
You're
Nash.
right.
God. So, like Laura said, that is where we pick up, and the second book kind of just left off on Grayson's dad getting killed,
Yeah,
Sheffield, because he was trying
RIP.
to kill Avery. So, I mean, he's probably having some trauma at Harvard, trying to adjust
Yeah,
after
I
that,
mean,
I would
the
assume.
good thing for Grayson, is there's, student resources to get free counseling, but I'm sure he's avoiding it at all costs.
Oh
Because if
no.
there's one thing Grayson loves, it's throwing a little pity party for himself and just guilt tripping himself like nobody's business.
Exactly. And if he went to therapy, they would actually make him be accountable. So Grayson
Yeah.
is gonna not
Yeah,
do that.
that's the thing I think that pisses me off about Grayson is, like, he is guilt tripping himself about, like, being awful, but, like, won't hold himself accountable for being awful, and it's just like,
Hmm.
"Nope, I'm awful," and it's like, "Well, what are you gonna do about that? Just continue to be awful?"
No, download the Calm app.
Yeah.
We're being
Yeah.
sponsored.
Oh
Download the
my
Calm
gosh.
app.
Yeah, download the Calm app, get some little sleep sounds at night, you'll do fine.
So while Avery is on the cusp of her 18th birthday, which Elisa is planning,
Mhm.
Jameson is out exploring the world trying to figure out what this disc is
Yeah.
because that is what Toby left behind in the second one for
Mhm.
Avery's mom to find. And we also kind of start realizing there's some tension that before Grayson went to Harvard, there was like a scene in a wine cellar that is kind of like added another layer to their friendship. We don't know what
Yeah,
it is,
we
but
don't know
they
what
have grown
happened.
cold, Grayson and
But we're gonna
Avery.
allude to it multiple times throughout this book, because
Oh
Avery will
my
be like,
god.
This reminds me of the wine cellar," and we're like, "What the fuck happened in the wine cellar?"
Hmm.
So we'll get there when we get there. But Jameson does come back for Avery's birthday, slay, and he plans a whole ass romantic day for her. He gets her like a ball gown, he gets her a hot air balloon. They go to a fucking beach. He's
Hmm.
throwing down. He's doing bachelor finale style date.
I know, it's like a picnic, a helicopter.
Yeah.
And when they come back, there's this giant Ferris wheel and a big dance floor waiting for her. She told Elisa she doesn't want a big party, but it is just her friends. Max is like on FaceTime, which I think is so funny because
Amazing,
she is
cute.
actually at college, but guess who is not? Grayson, because he
Yeah.
does show up.
How did he get
Um,
time off of college to go to this party?
I don't know. I would love to know when this is because I also want to know Avery's star
Well,
sign.
because we know her birthday's in October from the first book, remember? Her birthday's October 18th.
Oh, so it's not
Yeah,
even
so
like
this
he's
is
on
like the
winter break.
start this is at least months into the school year, like, this is not a time to be skipping school.
So we can kind of tell what
You are
Grayson's social
mid-syllabus
status
right now,
is.
Grayson,
Absolutely, he is not making any friends. He's like, "High school is the best time of my life." But
right?
he didn't even have
He's like,
friends
"High
in high
school was the
school.
worst time of my life, but unfortunately, it was also the best time of my life, and I refuse to grow." Um,
Exactly.
Wrench.
I
We get a
do love
wrench.
that the morning after he like walks in and finds her in bed with Jameson,
Yeah,
which is so funny.
that's so funny. But we get a kind of wrench here. Eve, who was
Mm,
mentioned at the end of the last book, is going to show up. She is Toby's real biological daughter, and she shows up all askew. She's got blood dried on her temple, and she goes, "Hey, I know I probably shouldn't be here right now, but Toby isn't okay. They took him." And
exactly,
Grayson's like,
which transphobic. I put they
"Yeah."
in parentheses. Okay, Eve, who's this they? You're spewing hate. It's clearly like a
Wow.
ransom.
But Grayson observes Eve from afar and is like, "Whoa, she looks just like Emily." And now I'm
Grayson.
obsessed with her. And I am not exaggerating when I say that.
Yeah, so imagine you start dating someone who's not only over their ex, they're only attracted to you because you look like their dead ex.
Yeah. And
What a
he's not going to
twist.
really try to get to know you, but he's just going to kind of protect you and guard you at all costs without understanding who you actually are.
So this is our painting of Eve. Now you know her. He's freaking out because he's like, OMG, Emily, this girl who died 2 years now, and I still haven't processed it. And Avery reassures him he's not hallucinating. And Grayson is upset because Avery has gatekept Toby's legitimate daughter's existence from him.
Yeah. Yeah, so Avery is like, "Okay, there's this girl at my house. Let me go talk to my boys about what's up with this girl at the house." So
My
she like
boys.
she strolls on over to her boys, Jameson and Grayson. She goes, "Hey boys, so there's this girl Eve at the house. She's Toby's biological daughter. I don't think there's anything to worry about. Let's let her stay, essentially." And they're like, "Yeah, so Toby's gone now. They're probably after the disc that we're also trying to figure out like whatever the fuck that is." And Eve's like being like very dramatic, like, "Guys, I just want Toby back. I know I shouldn't be here, but I don't know where else to go." So instead of putting her up in like a hotel or like one of the many other Hawthorne properties and being like, "You stay put while we figure this out," they're like, "I guess you can stay here where we're under watch all of the time by paparazzi." That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, instead of asking her questions, they decide to test her loyalty with a game of shoots and ladders, which I was picking up is essentially there's like slides hidden within the
Yeah.
mansion.
Yeah, they're playing real life shoots and ladders.
And it seems like she wins. They all start off by telling their secrets. Most are
Yeah.
tame,
The
except
turn order.
Eve goes on a rant about being like, "Oh, no one in my family likes me."
Yeah.
Okay, get in line, sister.
Listeners, get this. Yeah, to decide the turn order of real life shoots and ladders, everyone has to tell a secret, and best secret goes first. And so Grayson's like, "I kissed a girl at college. I think he's lying." Max says she has a tattoo. Xander drops that he found out who his real dad is, which is a great secret. And Eve is like, "I had a really bad childhood and no one's ever loved me." And it's like, girl, that's not a secret. That's obvious. We all know
That's
that already. That's
trauma.
why you're here, is because you have trauma.
Grayson's secret, love it, is that he kissed a girl at Harvard. I'd be like,
Yeah.
"Okay, good.
Yeah,
You
he's like,
should."
what's he gonna say next? He touched her boob over her shirt, like,
Can you imagine him showing up in a three-piece suit to a party and you're like, "That's the one I'm gonna kiss."
he's gonna use his
Yeah.
pocket watch to check the time. He'll be like, "Oh, it's 10:30. I must be going."
So Grayson and Eve win, and Avery and Jameson have an aside where Jameson asks for confirmation. Because I mean, Eve looks like Emily, so she's really fucking up
I
everyone's
wanna
psyche.
we gotta love Jameson for like, let's do a little temp check here. How we feeling about this whole Eve situation?
Yeah, they have this like code word, which is Tahiti, where
Yeah.
they have to be so real with each other. And Avery is like, "No, you did not kill Emily." And Jameson also asks if Avery is jealous of Grayson and Eve, and she admits a little, which crazy.
Which
You
is
guys have
so
been together for a year.
that's a huge red flag. You told your boyfriend that
Huge
you're
red
jealous
flag.
that his brother is paying attention to someone more than you? That's horrible.
Oh my god, I would just be like, "Okay." You didn't have to answer that honestly. That
No,
was kind of
I'd be
like a
like, that
rhetorical
was
question.
that would be one of those that if I asked for complete honesty and they said that, I'd be like, "That was too honest. That's actually fucked," and I question this entire integrity of the relationship.
As you should.
Yeah, like, what?
Oh my god.
But they don't have time to sit on the fact that Avery is jealous that someone she's not dating has feelings for someone. No, because a parcel with the disc that they're kind of searching for answers on comes for Avery, and there's a puzzle that comes with it. and it's essentially a word puzzle. They're able to decode it quickly that it kind of spells out avenge, revenge, vengeance, avenger.
Okay, Marvel
Um,
fan.
yeah, they love the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Um,
The next clue that comes down the pipeline just says Hulk out. And he's
yeah,
like, "What does it mean?"
yeah, this one's like Thanos gemstones.
Thanos gemstone.
And they're like, wow, we have to watch Endgame. And they think this is all a part of Toby's fire on Hawthorne Island again. So they're like, we're getting sucked back in. Let's go.
Mhm. So Avery is thinking, she's like, is it Kaylee Rooney's family, her mom's family, and the sister who died in the fire? But when she calls her grandma and makes empty threats, her grandma makes empty threats, and she realizes, okay, she
Why?
clearly has no idea about
Why?
Toby.
Like, why'd she call her grandmother
I
again?
don't
Literally,
know.
last time she called her grandmother, she basically got cursed out without actual expletives being thrown at her.
Her grandma literally held up a phone to barking dogs and was like, "This is what happens when you call." And it's like dogs wanting to rip her apart. And you're like, "Yeah, let's call that old kook
Yeah,
again.
she
That
might help me
kooky
this.
woman."
She didn't help me last time, so I wonder if she'll help me now. Like, that's not how that works. Like, you've done nothing to build the bridge since then. But now Grayson's also like, I wonder if Sheffield did it, my real dad. And he doesn't know that Sheffield, his real dad, is dead and Avery watched him die, which you think Avery would have maybe told him.
You would think.
Yeah, but they're also like, maybe it's a Sky thing. Maybe Sky did this.
So, they go over to Sky, where she has this like McMansion now. She's in the suburbs.
Yeah.
Jameson is telling Grayson to get his head together because he's giving Eve favorism and like we can't get tunnel vision right now because we don't know this girl. And Grayson's like, I'm fine, I know what I'm
She's
doing, I'm
like,
not
he's
vulnerable.
like, she's a wounded bird and she needs protection.
And I gotta be honest, things are kind of turning up Sky. She's content in in suburbia. She's
Yeah.
married her defense attorney,
Yeah.
Slay, and she's aware the dis exists, but she doesn't know that Toby's still alive.
No.
So she can't be the one who sent the ransom letter.
Yeah, and Sky's also basically getting written out of the story because she basically says like, "I'm done with the Hawthorns," and that was the author saying she's done in this book series because this is the last time we see her, and it's like, yeah, okay, she's done. Um,
Which is pretty impressive for someone who tried to kill Avery in the first book, was
yeah,
sleeping with Avery's dad in the second book, and now is like, no, I found my peace.
yeah, like I'm good. Bye. It's like, all right, I guess you're good.
I do kind of love it. She's like, I rule this little suburbia kingdom, and
Yeah.
I'm fine with it.
She's a Stepford wife. That's great for her. Jameson and Grayson are bickering with each other because Sky, of course, is being a bitch. And they decide that they're gonna walk like the 13 miles back to
18.
18 miles back
Isn't
to
that
Hawthorne
crazy?
House. And
Yeah.
Avery's like, don't do that. And they're like, no, we're boys. We have to do this. We have to fight for 18 miles worth of walking.
Crazy decisions from every single boy. So those two boys are gonna be walking, and then Nash drops the craziest line about being like, I think Libby would look really good pregnant with a baby.
I
I
hated
think
it. I hated it. It was like, what do you mean she'd look really great pregnant? You're not even dating.
Oh my god.
God.
Meanwhile, Jesus, the tunnels have been tripped. Rebecca is just kind of lurking around down there, processing that Eve looks exactly like her dead sister.
Yeah.
And Bex has to tell her mom about Eve,
Yeah, and Eve
which
is
does
very,
not go
like,
over
clear
well.
that she wants to meet her mom, which is so awkward. It's like, maybe this isn't your place, Eve. You just kinda showed up, so, um
Avery mentions to Thea on the phone because Thea's like this big influencer traveler now, which I
yeah,
love for her.
amazing. Love
That
Thea.
Rebecca's kind of having a meltdown, and Thea's like, "All right, I'll come back. I'll come
Yeah.
home."
Oren's also gonna drop that like, "Hey, Avery, something weird's going on. People keep like resigning from your security team because they keep getting offered better jobs." He's
Mhm.
like, "I'm gonna really investigate this. I really feel like this is a target, so we're gonna keep this on our mind as we're looking into what's going down here."
And he also brings up that a courier brought a photo of Toby holding up a newspaper for the day of when the photo was taken, so
Yeah.
he's alive. But we don't know how he's doing, how long he has.
Yeah, and the decoded message from this, like, photo is, "I always win in the end." So we're like, "Okay, that's foreboding." Um,
Mhm.
and Eve is still being wishy-washy and weird. She's like, I don't know. I don't even know why I'm here. Toby didn't even like me. He didn't want me coming here. Then it's like, then why did you come here? Why are you here?
I don't know. Xander's trying to distract everyone with a chocolate fondue fountain while they kind of just wait for answers from the captor. Jameson and Grayson come back from their 18-mile trek bloodied and bruised, and Jameson gets out any reserve energy he has by boning Avery. That's what I
Oh,
picked up. I took away that they were fucking
it
quite
seemed like
often.
they boned. It seemed like they boned. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
alluded. It was an alluded boning, not expletive.
No, 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 no. And so in the middle of the night after said session, Avery does get up. She's always watching Grayson swim. And
It's so
I don't
weird.
know.
Yeah, she wakes up, Jameson's not next to her, so she's, like, walking around the house, somehow winds up at the pool where Grayson's doing his night swims that are creepy, and she watches Eve approach Grayson, and then, like, she's just kind of watching them have an exchange, and then Jameson finds her. We don't know where Jameson was. Like, we don't know why
No,
he got up, we don't
he
know where
seemed to
he
just be
was.
lurking like an
He's
old
just
Victorian
he's just
child.
lurking, and they make out against the wall, so that's fun.
Hot. He
Yeah, and
does
oh,
say
yeah.
well, he does
I
say
was
that he
gonna say,
doesn't know
oh,
what's going on between her and Grayson, but if it's a game, he will play it because he doesn't trust himself not to play,
he
which is fine.
does say something important here, that he knows something happened in the wine cellar, and that
Mhm.
afterwards Grayson was acting weird and left for school early and wasn't making eye contact with him or Avery. And instead of Avery being like, "Here's what happened in the wine cellar," she
Yeah.
just goes, "Yeah."
She
She
just
just
goes,
let
"Oh my god, you have to trust me."
yeah, she just lets him think that
Why?
he cheated on him in the wine cellar. Like, what? It was
Yeah.
awful.
No, but she's still obsessed with this boy and his late night swims. You know who else late night swims? Conrad Fisher
Yeah, and
from
Conrad
Summer
was
I Turned
also one
Pretty.
of my least favorite romantic interests
Oh
in
my god, he
a
was
book
such
series.
an
He was
asshole.
so awful. I'm so glad they made him more likable in the TV show because, like, there's no way.
Yeah. So Elisa is finally being looped into everything because everyone's kind of being an ass to her for moving Avery away from the hospital. But obviously, there's that loophole in the will that Avery has to stay on the premises for a
Yeah,
year. So she's actually just kind of looking out for her.
yeah.
And she has a bag that Tobias wanted her to deliver if Eve ever showed up.
Which is a
And
huge a bomb because it's like, okay, so he was aware that
yeah,
Eve existed and did not include her in the will. That's an added layer.
that's kind of hilarious. He's like, "Oh, I won't actually include the blood daughter, but I'll
Yeah.
include the one that's kind of just around."
Like, also to have the gumption to be like, "Okay, if this bitch shows up, I gotta make a puzzle so they can figure out the things if she's around."
Instead of just expediting and being like, "You're in danger." So
Yeah,
in this bag is a steamer, a beach towel, a flashlight, and letters. And there's also a USB file that plays white noise.
yeah,
And she realizes the letters spell out a chess move that is the Queen's Gambit, which, as we know now, is a chess move, not a Netflix show,
yeah,
where a pawn is sacrificed to get the queen. So it's to
yeah.
take control of the board.
Yeah, it's basically a thing that you sacrifice the queen to use the thing, which is not a normal thing in chess, because
Hmm.
the queen's one of your most powerful pieces. But anyway, Avery says this is like, let me look for chess sets around the house. So Avery enlists Max and Libby to help her. And Avery's like, I'm going to use this opportunity to ask Max, like, hey, you're really close with one of my other boys, Xander. So what's going on there? And Max is like, no, no, that's new. I like him.
Yeah,
End of sentence. End of thought.
I think they're great together.
Yeah.
So she collects all of the chessboards. There's like six of them, and Jameson's like, "Oh no, 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 no! There's this $1 million set in the Hawthorne vault." So she goes down there, and there's like this black queen on the board that has a seam that she has to get tweezers to get the note out, and the note says, "Don't breathe."
Yeah.
Ominous. I would fucking hate
It's
that.
so ominous. And also, I think like right before this, Grayson like goes to like Avery, and it's like, "Can we show Eve Toby's wing? I feel like it'd
Oh
make
my
her
god,
feel
yeah.
connected to Toby." So instead of her being like, "Yeah, Grayson, go take her to Toby's wing," Avery's like, "I'll show her Toby's wing." And then she just basically tells like Eve everything that happened in the second book. Not important. This doesn't really go anywhere.
It's so funny because there's that poem from William Blake about, like,
Yeah.
wrath, and Eve gasps, and she's like, "Oh, my dad was angry too."
Yeah. She's
Okay?
like, "Wow, he had teenage angst like me." Like, come on, girl.
You're not special.
You're
What
not
is
special.
going
You're not
on?
you're not having a unique experience. Um, Avery at
Rebecca
school oh,
Yeah, there you go.
Avery at school the next day is called to the headmaster's office, and a package has arrived for her.
Mhm. It's a phone with a countdown indicating they essentially have 13 hours, and that's kinda all that's on the phone. There's a calendar entry too that says NIV, NIV, and there's 1 number saved.
So they call the number. This guy's like, "Hey, it's me, Luke." And he has like a spooky, gravelly voice. He's an old guy. And he's like, "And I want an answer by our next phone call, or something bad will happen to Toby." I'd be like, "You got to give me a little bit more, my dude. Answer to what? Who are you other than Luke? Like, I need some background."
He's like, "Nope, giddy up, lassie. Get going."
Yeah.
Even worse, a photo of Eve outside the house with a story about Jameson and Grayson killing Emily goes viral, but
Yeah.
everyone's like, "Cut out the noise. We literally need to put our heads down and
Right.
focus on this."
Eve is also being unsufferable during this whole like exchange with like the phone puzzle and this paparazzi thing because she just keeps being like, What do you mean? What's going on? Who's Emily? What's this mean?" And it's very, very annoying. It took me out of the book multiple times.
Yeah.
But the gang's like, "We got 13 hours. Let's get to work." And they realize the main clue is a Bible verse.
Mhm.
So they call Luke in the nick of time and are like, "Here's the Bible verse."
Yeah, Niv is apparently the parable of the prodigal son, and when they call Luke, he's like, "Hey, there's 3 players in the prodigal son. There's the prodigal son that returns, the one that stays, the father. Which one am I?" And so they're
Yeah.
thinking literally. They're like, "Okay, so prodigal son, it must be blood. It's got to be Sky or Zara. Or does Toby have another son? Like what
Yeah.
is going on?" So they're going to suss out Zara first. Um she had a husband before her husband now.
Mhm.
They're wondering if he was the culprit. So they go and they talk to her about it, and she's like, "No, it wasn't him. It's just not him. Don't worry about it."
Yeah.
And so they're like, "Well, maybe Tobias isn't the king." I mean, they're really running into so many dead ends. They do not
Yeah.
know.
They go to look at Tobias's threat list that Oren kept because Oren's an organized king. We love that.
Mhm.
And so they're starting to review some of the people that like Tobias screwed over in his lifetime. And they find a name, Isaiah Alexander. Of his file is missing from this threat list. And
Mhm.
Xander's like, "Yep, that's my dad. Found him, talked about it 100 pages ago, but we all forgot about that." But he's like, "I'm not ready to call him just yet."
Yeah, because he is one of multiple people. Tobias Hawthorne did something so fucked, which is he would take ideas from people and patent them, then
Yeah.
use that money to fund land acquisitions with Texas Big Oil, and then he just like mercilessly lay off employees and then have non-compete clauses so people couldn't really have a easy time finding a job after, which is
Yeah.
so fucked. If I figured
So
that out about my
fun.
grandpa, I'd be like, "Oh my god, this guy sucks."
I'd be like, "Oh, this is like one of the worst human beings I've ever encountered."
Absolutely.
So Avery's like, "I'm gonna revisit my little satchel of objects because I'm running into all these dead ends." And she somehow knows exactly what to do now that she's like slept on it.
Of
And
course.
she goes to the pool where Grayson is once again getting his fish mode on. And Grayson laments to her that he's like, "I'm so mad that Tobias knew about this sweet, precious baby dear Eve and didn't tell us about it." And
My
he's like,
little Bambi.
I'm never enough for anybody, and I need to protect Eve at all costs because this is my sentence or something."
I
And
know,
he
he's like,
leaves,
"Stop looking. Literally just stop." And she's
and
like, "I
then
don't wanna." He's so complacent. I don't give
yeah,
a
he
fuck about
sucks.
him.
So Avery's gonna jump into the pool, and there's a mosaic at the bottom of the pool that's a chessboard, and there's
Mm.
a little package in there, like a little thing floating. Oh,
Somehow.
why?
How did it not get wet?
Oh, I think maybe it was in a plastic bag. It was like under a tile or something.
Yeah.
Um, And then Jameson's just there waiting for her when she gets back up, and they look at the clue, and it's a photo of Margot, France, dated December 1973.
They're like, "What do we do with this photo? Do we run it through reverse image search? What could it mean?"
Yeah.
And y- this is also when like they're kind of processing that I guess the grandpa is bad because of
Yeah,
everything
and
going on.
Xander's gonna give us some much needed therapy time because he texts everybody 911. Let's all do karaoke in the auditorium, and they all show up and they're like, "Whoa, Grayson isn't here for the 911 call," and they go and find this bitch in some sort of classical musical instrument room, and he's just playing like long songs off of these very expensive violins and smashing them, which begs me so many questions. It's like, one, how long has he been doing this? How many violins are in this house? And why the fuck is he doing this in the first place?
I don't know. Also, it's not your property. It's Avery's now. Maybe
Yeah.
she wants to play violin.
Yeah. I sent him an invoice for all of the broken violins.
Exactly. Bill it. So she's like, "Wait, wait, wait, Grayson, hold on. We have a new clue." And he's like, "I don't want to play. What's the clue?" So they show him the photo of the three women they found at the bottom of the pool. And he's like, "We have to go to the wine cellar." And she's like, "No, not the dreaded wine cellar where the
And we
thing happened."
we finally find out the thing that
Oh my
happened
God.
that night, and I'm so pissed off. This is not juicy in any way, shape, or form. So
Mm-mm.
there's a little party going on at Hawthorne House. Fun. There, a little girl falls into the pool and starts
Bad.
drowning. Grayson, with his three-piece suit, jumps into the pool and saves this little girl. And then he's so distraught that he saved someone's life that he gets drunk in the wine cellar. And Avery goes to check in on him and he goes, like, "Oh, I can't believe I saved this girl, but I'm still such an awful piece of shit."
Yeah,
And then
because he
he basically,
froze when the bomb blowed up and it didn't go for
yeah,
Avery.
and then he's like, "I'll never be enough for you, Avery. Like, not now." Like, and implying that he's never gonna be like a good enough romantic partner for Avery. That's it.
And he like kneels in front of her and she just kind of like hugs him. That's just a
Yeah.
friend reassuring a friend.
Like, oh my god, like, at least make out. Like, what? Like, that would have been way worse.
Yeah,
But, like,
you had a moment of vulnerability and then he was like so embarrassed, I guess, that he
and,
felt an
like,
emotion.
so
He
now,
left.
Avery, why were you hiding this from your actual boyfriend? Like,
I
wouldn't you just
don't
be like,
know.
"Hey, Jameson, Grayson was being a drunk little weirdo in the wine cellar last night and cried a lot. That's what Grayson does."
Exactly. Also, wouldn't you want to be like, "Hey, I think he's like having a moment if you want to have a check in with him because it seems like they're
No.
close as brothers."
Yeah, no, Avery, selfish. She only has her own best interest in mind most of the time. But so anyway, now they're gonna go to the wine cellar and find this wine label. They steam it off with the steamer,
Ooh.
and the label leads them to a crystal on a chandelier. And the crystal with a flashlight on it reads, "Don't trust anyone."
She's wondering if it simply means don't trust Eve since this all started. But Grayson's, of course, is like, "No, no, 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 no." And then Eve overhears. It's like a who's on first situation. She's like, "You don't trust me? Fine. Go through my phone." And Grayson's like, "Please, Avery, tell her to stay." Which, what is this weird hold that she has on
Yeah,
you?
it's so weird because Eve's like, "You know what? I understand that, like, I'm being, providing tension," and she goes, "I'm leaving." And instead of Grayson being like, "Hey, Eve, don't. We want you here," he goes, Avery, tell her to stay." It's like, why aren't you doing that, Grayson? That's so fucking weird.
So Avery has to like go with Eve because there's a message on her phone from Mallory Laughlin, and Eve's like, "You come with me or I walk." So Avery's like, "Okay, I guess I'll go for this weird family reunion."
Yeah,
They
and
head over to the
oh,
Laughlins, and it's like a nightmare.
it's like a horror movie,
It
honestly.
really felt like
It's
that.
creepy. It's creepy as fuck.
Yeah. Mallory's a bit insane since Emily died. Thea also went live on Instagram to say the rumors were started by her about the Hawthorne boys killing
Yeah.
Emily and to back off, which I don't buy, but I
Yeah,
feel like it's like
whatever.
reclaiming the narrative.
Sure.
And I mean, God, Mallory's like really lost it. She's asking Eve to call her mom.
Yeah. Like, Mallory is also suffering from the same delusion as Grayson because she thinks Eve is basically like Emily 2.0.
Hmm.
And it's so fucking weird. And Mallory does say that like Eve's grandfather, Toby's real dad, name was Liam, and he was older. And that's kind of, we get like a little bit of backstory, but we don't get the full story here.
We try to get a little bit about the breakup, and all we get is that he left.
Yeah.
That's really all that we know.
And then Thea enters stage right.
I know, here she comes.
And this is so weird because she's like, someone left me this envelope for you, Avery, here.
So, this envelope that someone left on her nightstand while she was showering, terrifying.
Gross.
There is 7 numbers in it, and Avery better memorize them pretty quick because it catches fire. It's like that Hogwarts letter, where I don't even know what they're called, the Rattlers? I don't know, but
Right?
it catches fire. And Oren's like, okay, he goes security mode. He's like, you guys all have to come with me. We have to stay at the mansion for safety, including crazy Mallory, who has completely forgotten her actual blood daughter, Rebecca, exists
Yeah.
because they keep
She's
just
ignoring
fucking
her.
ignoring her. And the mystery man who has Toby, Luke, as we know, calls and says he had Thea's phone bugged, so he knows she's Avery is in Tobias's big study and tells her to look up. And apparently, all the patents are on the wall in Tobias's study, and
Yeah.
they have 7 digits. So the 7 digits from the letter that
Yeah.
caught fire is a patent.
Yeah. He also has abducted Alyssa in this time frame as well. How, we don't
Yeah.
know, but they're able to use like the patent numbers to find two very very similar patents. One is a patent from Tobias and this man named Vincent Blake,
Mhm.
that they invented something. I didn't write down the invention. I don't even know if it was
It
mentioned in
was
the
a
book.
mechanism for drilling oil wells.
Oh, classic. And then there's a second patent right next to it that is basically a better version of the first patent. Like it was basically like Tobias used Vincent Blake and his idea to patent that, but then patent a better version for just himself.
Yeah. So Nan kind of fills in the backstory of what happened. She says that Vincent was his mentor. Vincent had nephews that really hated Tobias, and they kind of played with Tobias's girlfriend, Alice, because Vincent had a very boys will be boys mentality.
Yeah,
Bad.
bad.
And they really kind of terrified her. So Tobias was like, fuck this, I'm a ride or die, and double crossed him,
Yeah,
which
damn.
rules. That's the
Um,
only thing that he did that's good.
Yeah. Eve has left a note in a flurry.
Left
She's
the building.
gone. She's left she's exited stage right. A note in her place. And the note just says, I'm going after Vincent Blake, which we have to be like, girl, with what plan? And Grayson's like, I'll save her. I'm going to go after her. And
Yeah,
Jameson's
NPC
like, oh,
Grayson is just like pacing. He
yeah.
really is an NPC to me.
And Jameson's like, Jesus Christ, this idiot. Okay. He does like lock Avery in like a little escape room because he's like, Avery, you gotta just stay put for a second. I need to go fix this with my brother who's being dumb. I'm gonna go do that.
And he also reveals that he has this big scar on his body from essentially like cliff jumping over and over again after Emily died because he was racked with guilt and he's like I just have to step up and be a adult for once
Yeah.
in Grayson's shoes. But luckily apparently this room is an escape room. It
Yes.
takes her like 4 hours to figure out cuz
Which
of
escape rooms
course.
are 60 minutes or less. So this one's
Okay, so
that
she
was
really dropped the ball
daunting.
on this one.
Yeah.
And it leads down a ladder to Nash's room, and Nash is
Weird.
just like standing there barring the door, being like, little lassie, you're not going through. You're not
Yeah,
going
the weird
through.
thing I think we have to address is also like, why is Nash so southern in comparison to the other
I don't
brother?
know, because his dad was met in like Colorado.
Yeah, and so like Nash is I'm a cowboy kind of vibe, and he's a liar. Whatever.
Yeah, he's
Um,
co-opting, he's stealing culture.
Xander drops a little bomb here that his dad, Isaiah Alexander, worked for Vincent Blake. So they're like, let's go meet Xander's dad for once and for all.
And it's such a curveball. Unlike the other dads who either didn't know about their son's existence or didn't really want to be involved, when they go to visit Isaiah, he mentions that he really wanted Xander, but when he was fighting for custody, the Hawthorns faked a DNA test and he would still love to be his dad. And Xander's like, I need a minute. This is a
Yeah.
lot.
So Xander's gonna go snack on some donuts at a donut shop nearby.
Love it.
Awesome. His friends are gonna come check in on him, and they're like, "Okay." He's like, "Good. I've had some donuts. Let's go talk to my daddy again."
Mhm.
And Isaiah gives us more to the story. We learned that he quit working for Vincent Blake after he found out Vincent Blake was being shady as fuck.
Mhm.
And he also knows what the disc is. He says it's Vincent's calling card, and basically it's like a token that will basically give you access to his fortune after he dies. There's only 5 in the world. We don't know how much it's worth, but it's worth a shit ton of money.
He also reveals that one of Vincent's son's names was Will Blake, the poison tree poem in
Mhm.
Toby's room, and they're realizing that the Liam who left Mallory Laughlin could be this William, the guy
Yeah,
who is, Toby's dad, essentially would be Eve's grandfather,
grandfather.
which really throws a wrench in trusting Eve.
Woo, sure does. So Jameson's at the house when they get back. Um, and they're gonna have a little like tension moment again. He's like, Avery, I really think you want me to be Grayson. And that's a
Fair.
loaded statement. And also probably true. Avery really is a person who wants to have her cake and eat it as well.
Mhm.
Um, but Avery is starting to put pieces together about Eve, who is the most suspicious character in this entire book. She's like, wait a minute.
He
She
literally
might
says, "I love you," and she is not present. He's like,
know.
"Hello? Are you there? What are you thinking of? I
And she's
just
like,
said
"I'm
I
thinking
love
about
you."
Eve. I'm thinking about Eve that might know that Vincent Blake is her grandfather." Like, "Avery, we gotta turn the game off for a second. We're playing with people's emotions right now. That is not okay."
And emotions are not a game.
No.
But no, she's obviously realizing what we just put together, which
So
is that
yeah.
Blake is Eve's grandpa, and she tells
And
him this in response to "I love you." And he's like, "Okay, oh, we should probably react to Grayson." But I
yeah,
would like to be like, pause for a minute. That's an
yeah.
interesting thing that you just brought up.
So
Can
let's
we go
yeah.
back?
Can we be a relationship for a second and, like, actually address the room? But Avery's cracked essentially. She's very paranoid this book. She's
Yeah, she
gonna
really
march her
is.
little booty over to the cottage where Eve and Grayson are having, I guess, family time with Mallory. And Avery just starts demanding Eve to open up the locket that's on her neck. And like Grayson's getting so mad at this. And Eve's also being weirdly defensive about it, but it's also like it's just a locket. And then it ends up just being a picture of Eve as a baby, which is also insane behavior.
She's like, I do it for her, myself, as a kid, when no one else was there to do it for her. Okay?
Okay, okay,
Damn,
again,
write a
more
book.
therapy.
Okay, little prose woman. What are
Great.
you, Virginia
Great, you
Woolf?
had a bad childhood. We get it.
We gotta. So Grayson's like, get out. And they kick out Avery. This reaction from Grayson really hurts. And she has to remind Jameson once again, it will always be her. Because Jameson's like, remember, a few pages ago, I told you I love you. And now you're kind of reacting a
So
certain
weird to
way to my brother being
me.
mad. It's weird. It's kind of weird. I
And
don't
I'm kind
know.
he's like, "Hey, I'm kind of uncomfortable that there's this weird, like, romantic tension, in everything you do towards Grayson. You always seem very affected by his actions,
And
so."
she's like, pause. Listen, yes, I'm disappointed by Grayson, and I hold his opinion higher than water needs to fill my body. But I'm with you because I like the way you make me feel. It's like essentially it. It's like she's like, I'm
She's like,
obsessed with who I am with you. Okay, what
which
about
is
me as a
so
person?
selfish. Like, what do you like about Jameson as a person?
I know.
Like, oh my god, say something nice. Avery, again, paranoid as fuck. She's making phone calls. She finally gets Vincent Blake's phone number from one of her contacts. And Vincent Blake kind of drops this whole, Luke facade. He drops this whole like game, and he basically lays it flat out on the line. He says he wants to know what really happened to his son, William Blake, and he wants Avery to dig up the past and bring him the body, literally. So he thinks his son is dead and there's a body somewhere. And for some reason, Avery, 18-year-old, has to figure it out.
She's thinking and putting together that Tobias probably did something to Will, who was 20
Mhm,
when he hooked up with Mallory, who was
mhm.
16, and impregnated her. Which, yeah, I'd kill that guy
Yikes.
too.
Yikes.
Absolutely, I'd kill that
Bad.
guy.
Very bad.
So she is thinking that maybe it is like under a wing that was expanded in the year that Mallory and him were like hooking up. She's
Yes.
laying together like blueprints of the house and looking through the chapel and the greenhouse. And she starts with the chapel. She somehow solves an impossible puzzle in
This is
record
so
time.
fucking weird. Yeah.
I did not she's, like, reaching under this granite slab, which would be the altar,
Yeah.
and, like, blindly putting together numbers that in, like, a set of 3? I don't even
Yeah,
know.
I don't know, and there's even, like, an image in the book to, like, tell me about this puzzle. I, like, skipped over it. I was like, "It's too
They
confusing,
want
it
you to
doesn't make
know it's
sense."
hard, and she got
It's
it in 3 pages.
and so what happens is, like, the slab granite top opens, and Avery's like,
Cool.
"Yep, a body can definitely fit in here," and
She gets in, she tests it out, she, like,
she's like,
tests
"Oh,
its durability.
yeah,
"Oh, this
yeah,
is a good
body can fit in
casket."
here. This is a good casket." And Toby left a message inside that says, "I know what you did, and there's another USB drive in there."
What are they gonna do when they figure out that Steve Jobs updated the computers and they need an
I mean, they're gonna
adapter?
be like, "Oh my god, we need a USB to USB-C converter."
We have to wait a day while Amazon Prime
And he's like, "I
ships
left one
this.
hiding in the house. You have to find it."
The adapter. So they have this USB now, but who shows up but Eve? She's got a gun on Avery.
Okay, I do have to say, I love the amount of times that someone just shows up with a gun in this book. It happened last book with Zara for no reason. It's awesome.
I love I love Zara showing up with a gun and like
And
pointing it at
I love
Avery
that,
and being
like,
like,
Zara's
"Orin, you know I'd never kill a child."
and Zara's, like, also showing up with a gun being like, "I just want you to tell me what you're doing." Like, what?
I just want to have a calm conversation.
And it's
What
like,
are you doing?
why, like, and they would have told her if she didn't have the gun. Like, they would have told her regardless.
So here comes Eve being like, "How's your Wednesday going with the
Yeah.
gun?" And oh my god, I don't even know where I am. I'm laughing so hard.
So Eve basically's bad girl now. What a surprise. We all knew she was suspicious as fuck. She admits that she helped Vincent Blake abduct Toby. She's in on it.
And
Um,
Orin's there too with a gun. It's a gun off.
yeah.
Um,
And well, Eve also says Mallory did admit to her that Liam didn't leave per se. Something else happened. And Grayson
mm,
overhears Eve being not his Eve, not his Emily. And he's like,
no.
Eve, you've changed. Leave. And Orin escorts her off the property.
I really love Eve pulls an incredible move to try to pit Avery against Grayson, and she's like, "If you pick her, I'll kill myself." Okay. And oh, she blames it. She's like, "Grayson, it'll be your fault if I kill myself." Okay,
And Grayson's
crazy
like,
girl.
no, not now, Eve. You've changed.
That's the Queen's Gambit right there, is pulling that move on your boyfriend. So after she's escorted away, he's
I'm sorry,
finally
also,
realizing
how anticlimactic to just say, like, Orin, like, escorts her away as if he's like, all right, come on, nothing to see here. Not like he forcibly removes her from the property. Like, he's just waving her, like, go, shoot, like a sheep or something.
yeah,
Like, come on, girl, we gotta,
it's just
gotta
another
get
Monday for
going.
Eve and her weird personality
Yeah,
disorder.
as if it was last call at the bar, and he's like, you can go anywhere else. You just can't stay here. We're closed.
So after she's escorted off the premises, Grayson is realizing, I don't know why it took this long, that he is just in love with an idea of her and Emily, but he's actually in love with Avery. He's like, whoa, 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 but I am in love with you, which is too bad because she's in love with Jameson.
Is she though? And
I
he also
don't
kind of
know.
admits, like, wow, I just really wanted Eve to be you, which is also delusional. Um,
Yeah, pick. Do you want Emily? Do you want Avery? You gotta
like,
pick a
what do you want? Because
side.
it's almost like he wants Eve to be Avery, but he also wants Avery to be Emily, and he really just wishes Emily was still alive.
Exactly. So
Uh,
this disc essentially plays a message from Tobias saying hello to Avery, and that if they're listening to the disc, that means Eve found them. That's not good because Vincent has a lot of power. And kind of damn, in this, he admits Avery was basically a sacrifice for Vincent to go after
yeah,
because listen to this. This guy's ego was so big, he got threatened by her mom once that if he used her to get to her son, she knew everything with the Blake family.
yeah,
She would take them down. And so he's like it's essentially like a grudge. It's like
yeah.
a decade-long grudge because his her mom threatened her once.
Yeah. I did think this was cool because it was also, like, the first time we would realistically hear Tobias's voice throughout this entire book because we get a lot of flashbacks, and it
Yeah.
also felt very Saw to me because it's, like, obviously we're playing a sound recording that we're just listening to, and it
Yeah.
really made me wish that they would cast Tobin Bell, who plays Jigsaw in the Saw movies, as Tobias Hawthorne because I think it'd be a great casting.
I mean, it when I looked it up, it said that they were making a show, but
Or
I think that was
Shawn
in
Mendes, you know,
2021.
I'll take either.
Shawn Mendes, every role in Tobias Hawthorne too. So Avery calls Blake and is like, hey, Eve's not here anymore, so I'm gonna assume that she's with you. What will I get if I give your son's remains? And he's like, so glad you asked. Actually, there's another courier at the gate. This
Yeah,
man
he's like,
loves
"You
her,
must
sending her
the
all these
letters have just
packages.
arrived to you." Fucking weird.
And it's a package with ink blot tests that, when rearranged, shows Elisa laying bruised and beaten.
Wow.
Bummer.
The bad big bummer. And Nash is like, "Now do you believe that Alyssa's not in on it?" And she's like, "Yeah, okay, I believe it now. Move on." They go to the hedge maze to further investigate where this body could be. And Avery's like finally like trying to assure Jameson that she chose him. And she's like, "And I'm not into Grayson anymore." And it's like, still, you guys have been dating for a year. That's actually fucked.
Mhm.
They enter into the tunnels through the hedge maze, and then they find another like kind of ambiguous, angsty message from Toby that doesn't really lead anywhere. It's another dead end.
No, it says, I was never a Hawthorne, and you'll have to keep searching, Dad. So, number one hater, Mr. Laughlin, shows up at this point, and he seems to imply he will not help, but he knows where the remains are.
This is hilarious. He's like, "No, I'm not going to tell you what happened because I didn't know. But if somebody did know, they would tell you that Mallory did start beating Liam with like a brick the moment he tried to leave her after impregnating her. And they would probably also say that she didn't kill him, but Mr. Hawthorne, Tobias Hawthorne, did say he would take care of it." And suddenly Liam was gone, and there was a body that we needed to take care of. But you didn't hear that from me.
You didn't hear that. Don't involve me in it.
Yeah.
So, somehow he has a change of heart. He instructs Rebecca. He's like, whatever, I'm washing my hands clean of it. Rebecca, you can show them the spot, but if Blake asks who killed Will, to say it's me, because he wants to protect his daughter, Mallory. There's so many generations in this house. I
Yeah,
have
I
no
think he
idea.
wants to protect Mallory, but they find the remains. We also find out that Grayson, with his weird
Oh
provider
my
hero complex,
god.
is somehow traded places with Alyssa.
Yeah, and Avery's realizing Vincent wants her to make a split decision here and like really fuck things up in the heat of the moment, knowing that Grayson is taken. But she's like, I gotta think two steps ahead. So she calls the police to say remains were found on the Hawthorne residence before Vincent can do it herself. And she also decides she's gonna confront him alone and tells Landon to call the press up because she's gonna say that Tobias killed Will.
Yeah.
Who, like, she doesn't own this man anything.
Yeah. No.
I'm gonna sacrifice her.
Yeah, he's also dead. Like, who cares?
Exactly. So she gets into the Blake residence with the disc key. She shows up. Blake is all bravado and show. He's very machismo. And she's trying to indicate that she'll give another interview on the way out if he does anything crazy. But Eve told Blake about Grayson's dad. So now he has leverage. He's like, listen, I know that you guys killed him.
Yeah. So he's like, so now he has leverage. And Avery's like, "Okay, I'll play chess for it."
Mhm.
And then Vincent Blake chode. He's gonna make some
Chode.
He's a huge chode. And he's gonna make some long winding like chess tournament where Eve, Toby, and Avery are all gonna kind of pair off in pairs. And if they each win a game, they get something. But if they lose a game, they get something taken away. So the ideal scenario is you win both of your games and you get your ideal ending, if you will.
It's very fun. If Eve wins both her matches, she gets his fortune. If Toby wins, he'll go free and can
Yeah,
still pretend to be dead. And if Avery wins, he won't mention what happened to Grayson's dad, and she won't have to write him essentially a massive check, which is
yeah.
the entire estate.
Yeah, exactly. So they start playing chess.
I'm
Toby
playing chess.
actually throws his first game against Eve almost as a I don't know, I guess we don't really understand the motive. Maybe he just feels bad for her. I
I
don't
think
know.
it's because she's his actual daughter, and he's like,
Yeah.
I want to be a good dad now.
Yeah, and Vincent Blake calls it out. He's like, "No, no, no, we're not throwing games here." So Avery is actually able to beat Toby. It's much harder for her to do that, but she does. So Toby has lost both of his games, and he is now, Toby Blake forevermore.
Very sad.
Yeah.
She does lose to Eve on purpose because she's going to try to Queen's Gambit Blake
Yeah.
and get him to play her. And she's like, listen, if you win, you can be the trustee of my whole fortune. And in exchange, you don't say anything about Oren killing Grayson. And you also have to leave me alone.
Yeah.
And they start playing, and he obviously doesn't realize that she's hustling him. And boy, does she smoke him. She
She does.
smokes him.
Yeah, she really does. She can think 100 moves ahead. She wins. And then Eve, of course, wants to make it about her because she's like, "You let me win." And she's like, "Yeah, I did. I don't care about you. I don't owe you anything." And it also sounds like Toby's just going to like hang out on this like ranch and just like be a person. And he's like, "Yeah, I'll see you soon. I'm just going to be here, I guess. Like I'm not going
I'm
to be
just gonna
under
be
lock
here.
and key."
Yeah.
And then Jameson's waiting for her outside. So they
Yeah, he's like, do you want to learn how to fly a plane? And I think that that's kind of what you need right now.
Yeah. And yeah, so we kind of fast forward a few days. It's the night of Avery's official 1 year at Hawthorne House. And the gang's just doing cute little activities. They're playing hide and seek, they're having some
Mhm.
snacks, and they're gonna count down to this new era of Hawthorne House.
Yep. So they're counting down until she's a billionaire. She asks Elisa to turn on the TV, and the newscaster says Avery put 94% of her inheritance in a charitable trust to be distributed over 5 years, which I did the math. She is giving away 28 billion of $30 billion to
Yeah.
charities. So
Yeah.
she's still going to be fine.
Yeah, exactly. And so when we fast forward actually 1 year later, we are Avery's giving an interview. We kind of get a little like check in on all of her boys. Grayson's no longer at Hawthorne. He's just helping with this charity trust. Jameson's off exploring when he's not also helping with the trust. Xander's a mechanic with Isaiah. And
Cool.
Nash is working at a bar and is engaged to Libby, who he's going to impregnate because he thinks that'll be fun.
Because he's got a breeder kink. And Avery does say that she is going to be conducting games every few years, giving away money and sending envelopes to people.
And she's also
To
going to travel
yeah,
before college and visit all of the postcards places, which will be nice.
big plans for your
Yeah.
19th year
Yeah, and that's where the inheritance games, not the
ends.
Hawthorne, the Final Gambit, that's where that one ends.
Yeah,
And they all lived happily ever
really ever
after, and
after.
still objectively too rich.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What should we start off with? Top five
Our
or our
definitive ranking of the Hawthorne boys, I think we have to get it off of our chest.
I think so. So for our bottom of the pyramid this week on the Hawthorne rankings, I mean, it's pretty
It's
predictable
pretty
for
clear
us.
it's gonna be Grayson. He was so awful this book.
He he's just I mean, you
Insufferable.
we don't even have to keep going. You
No.
guys have listened to us rant on him.
Yeah.
Number 3, we're going to put Nash kind of by default. Also his weird breeder kink.
His weird breeder kink is not what Yaoi Reddit is all for. We actually hate that. So he's going to be at
He
number
like
3.
he
And
doesn't
it
get any
sucks.
lines and then he's just bringing up like trapping his
It
girlfriend.
also like sucks that it's like in like a normal world that would put a Nash at number 4, but Grayson was so
So
awful
insufferable.
that he got ranked lower than breeder kink Nash.
Exactly.
Number
Now,
2,
yes.
we're gonna shake up the rankings here. We're gonna
We
put
are.
Xander at number 2. We still think very highly of Xander. Xander does very well this book, but
Mhm.
we think we have to hold the top spot for
Jameson.
yeah.
He's going to be our number 1.
I think Jameson has probably like the most arc, I guess, out of all of the Hawthorne boys. He kind of grows up a lot in this book. He's being very emotionally intelligent.
Mhm.
He's really, having these open and honest conversations with Avery. I do think he should break up with her because she is not nice to him, but
Absolutely.
that's that.
And going from that, we're going to talk about our top 5. We left on a cliffhanger. What are these games that Avery's going to set up going to be? So, we're going to talk about the top 5 games that she's going to set up to give away money over time.
Amazing. Amazing. You go, Meg.
Coming in at number 5, I feel like you kind of got to. It is sensational right now. She's just going to do Squid Games.
It's
She
easy.
turns into a bloodthirsty murderer and she's like, I
I
want you to die over
There's
this
no
money.
ethical billionaire. I'm sorry, Avery. Like you got to do it.
You got to do it.
Number 2, we think Avery should create real life Pokemon. So create some little creatures, the balls they'll catch them, and they have to do a final gym battle to get some money at the end. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, maybe you gotta defeat the final four. Coming in at number 3, oh god, she's desperate to get rid of Grayson, so it's just whoever gets the final rose in Bachelor with Grayson can get some money, for
I
the
love
love of
that.
God.
Like, literally, like, pay someone to love him, please, because no one will. Number 2, we think Avery should recreate a real life version of the board game from the 90s, Don't Wake Daddy, which is a board game with a little mechanical daddy sleeping in the middle of it, and he wakes up throughout the night, and you're not supposed to wake him up.
Google it. It is the most horrifying board game Laura introduced me to before we started this
I think
podcast.
if she had a real life daddy in the mix to just not wake up, that sounds hilarious to me.
And if you're not feeling Don't Wake Daddy, we got number 1, which is a real life version of the game Mousetrap. I think that
Ugh,
would be the most
so
horrifying
cool.
thing to play.
I'm at a cage just careening down on top of you.
And you can, like, hear it and you're, like, frozen in fear as it
Yeah.
comes. Yeah,
Whew, that
I
sounds
hate that.
crazy. I love it, actually.
I love it, and we love you, and if you
Love
wanna love
you.
us, whoa, that was crazy. You can follow us everywhere. We'll probably start posting videos on TikTok now that we have Zencaster,
Yeah,
unless people aren't on TikTok. Again, don't
and
know,
we're
what are
still
we
feeling it
protesting?
out, but
We're on TikTok at Yeah We Read It. We're on Instagram at Meggie_and_Laura. We just made a Blue Sky. It's Yeah We Read It. Or I think you can find us at Meggie and Laura. I don't really know how Blue Sky works, but we're
yeah,
working
we're
on
still
it.
learning, but we're gonna post things there.
And the most effective way to get to us, if you want to email us at MeggieandLauraPresent@gmail.com. We love emails. We
We
love
love
when you guys
them.
send them.
We're
So
obsessed. We're still waiting for someone to email us
explain
about the French
France.
Revolution. I'm begging at this point.
We refuse to Google. We need to hear it from
I
the
can't
fans.
look at the Wikipedia. I'm too dead set on someone sending me an email about this. Even if someone
Exactly.
just copied and pasted the Wikipedia into an email, that's all I need.
We're asking you to do the labor to educate 30-year-old people.
Yeah, please. Please, we're helpless.
And until then, we will see you for the final wrap up.
Woohoo! Yeah, that'll be coming next week. So, yeah.
Yep.
All right. Okay, bye.
Bye.